Good morning. I just wanted to invite you into the studio today to show you what I've been working on. And since there have been so many hits on this particular technique that I've been using, painting on wood bark, I figure I would show you in the studio what's going on with that. Last year we had a tree fall down in the backyard, and we recently had cut it up because it was quite dry. And before I hauled the wood away, a lot of the bark pieces, which are quite thick, had sloughed off the trunk. And as I'm looking at them, I'm thinking, maybe I could put some of my landscape paintings on the interior of the bark because the surface was so smooth. So here's a piece of one of the pieces of bark, very natural on the outside. On the inside, they were all power washed off. They were washed with soap and water, and then I applied a primer sealer to the inside area of the tree trunk. And then as I looked at all of them, they sort of talk to you, what scene will be best to put on the shape. And I decided to go with a more traditional tonalist look for my first one. And I really enjoyed painting on the bark, and there was something about when I was painting on the bark that sort of transcended what you would do on the canvas. This is one of the pieces that I did this morning. This one is called Walk into the Woods. I love painting this scene, the canopy of trees walking into the wooded area, light coming through, filtering through, and sun coming through to the as you walk through. So it's an aspirational type of piece. And this morning I painted it on one of the trunks. And I'm going to show you some of the paints and the brushes and the materials that I use, because on Facebook there's been so many questions as to, what paints are you using? What are the brushes? Are you concerned about longevity? How will the piece hold up? How will you display the piece? So what we're really basically doing is we're putting on a tabletop. They just sit as a little sculptural art piece. This one will also sit probably on a tabletop, and you get to see the whole work in the round. So as you're seeing the painting, you actually get to see the bark, the structure of the tree, the nature. And instead of just chopping up and being in a wood pile, it's turned into a piece of art. It's very strong. This bark is very rigid. It's quite dry. I'm not really worried about longevity. I'm not worried about it lasting 500 years either, but I think in the end, for today's purposes, it's going to last quite some time. Also, the paints are painted on a primer sealer, and the intensity of the color is quite strong, just like it would be on the canvas. So it was quite interesting and fun to do. I have maybe 8 or 10 more trunks left. I might have to go hunting for some more bark to see if I continue on with this phase, but it really is something to see that painting art on a piece of nature actually got more people excited about seeing my landscape work than actually seeing on the canvas, because it was just so new and so unique. I'm not going to stop painting on canvas or on other materials, but as a diversion or the paths that we take when we create art, if something happens and you enjoy it, then you should move forward with it. So there was a lot of energy in the studio this week when the feedback was so great that we wanted to paint more of them. Lisa also painted a little owl on a piece of smaller bark, and it just looks fantastic. Mixing nature and paint all together creates a whole new level of experience when enjoying the art. Some of the brushes that I use in my regular painting, regular little painter's brush, you can get them at the hardware store, maybe a number 6 or 7 bright, and a striper. That's about it. I use it for either one. I like to paint in the big shapes, then use my smaller brushes for the branch work, highlight, actually just lay the paint right on. I'm not like trying to paint every detail, but I'm laying on the masses and the color. By emotion. You paint by emotion and excitement, and you know what you're working towards, so find the materials that work best for you. Some of the paints that I'm using are Amsterdam, Premier, Golden, Liquitex, even paints that I might find at the hardware store in larger quantities. So experiment. If you see a rock, or you see a piece of blank wood, or you happen to see a piece of bark and you feel like you want to paint on it, go right ahead. I want to thank you for joining me in the studio today, and if you have any questions, please just reach out to me on Messenger or on my Facebook page, Will Harmuth. Thank you.